This is a 2019 MacBook Pro, and well, this is probably one of the worst purchases I've ever made. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Yoni. I'm a self-taught web developer, and today I'm going to be talking about how a 2019 MacBook Pro is one of the worst purchases I've ever made, and how it led to me having one of the worst Apple support experiences ever. So, before we start, let's go back in time to when I first got the computer. The date's December 9th, 2019. The time is 7:01 PM and the computer arrives. Me being me, very excited, I go and unbox the computer straight away and open it. It's my first MacBook. Very excited, I start setting on thinking, this keyboard is a lot worse than I thought it would be. I was like, I can learn to live with it. Then a couple months later I realized, I regret this. It's always hot, it's loud and everything. The fans, it all sucked. It's just too loud and everything. But you know what? You need to stop living in the past. So as the doc says, Marty, you must go back to the future.
You've got to come back with me! Where? Back to the future! Hey Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88. Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
So here we are, the future. And this computer, do I still regret it? Yeah. And the reasons are, I will tell you in this video. So before I tell you how this computer led me to having a terrible Apple support experience and all of that, I'm first going to talk about what is bad about this computer in general. So let's start with the bit you already know. The infamous and the most famous keyboard of Apple's of all time, probably. The butterfly keyboard. And no, if you don't know about the butterfly keyboard, it is not famous for a good reason. These keyboards are famous for notoriously failing when dust gets trapped underneath the keys. Double keys, sticking keys, and all of the fun stuff you won't expect from a laptop keyboard, which costs over £1,000. Those issues first started popping up when the new MacBook Pros came out in 2016, and it became a very popular issue people were reporting about in 2017 when Unbox Therapy came out with his video talking about the MacBook. This is an issue that plagued MacBooks for over 4 generations, and Apple did nothing about it. They improved the keyboard after each generation. But these keyboards are still having issues, and in fact this is the greatest one, the one I have here. This is the greatest butterfly keyboard Apple came up with. And in fact it still had issues, and it's terrible to be honest. And I'm really glad though that Apple did finally make the switch back to scissor keyboard. Although that shouldn't be something you're happy about, because that shouldn't have happened in the first place. Apple could have experimented in 2016, realised this sucks, 2017, go back to the original design. Okay, I think I'm speaking to all of you here and myself here, but we'd all much rather a thicker computer in like 2017 and stuff if it meant having actual keys. I don't care about the 0.1 millimeters of thinness like shaved off. I don't care, Apple. I'd much rather have proper keyboards then. And even though I'm happy that Apple brought it back 2019, end of 2019, the 16-inch and then the 13-inch beginning of 2020 with the Intel version for the M1, it should not be something we're happy about, because it should not have happened in the first place after 2016. It's honestly ridiculous how that was a thing for so long. These computers basically have no heating ventilation. Well, this basically means if I have a markdown document open in Vim, that's a very lightweight task. Literally, Vim, invented in the 70s, well, VI invented Vim, I technically use near Vim, but it's still very lightweight, because it was originally made, the original version was originally made for very lightweight computers in the 70s, as you know, computers in the 70s weren't very powerful. So that's lightweight. A markdown file, that's lightweight. That's it. That could all bits be running on a computer. And you know what? The computer is going to feel hot, and I bet you in 5 minutes of me typing, I will be feeling those fans, and I'll be hearing those fans, and those fans get loud after around 5 minutes of literally just a NeoVim open of a markdown document. And this just gets really annoying. It's like the other day I was typing on it, and my hands literally started to hurt from typing on that much heat. It's honestly ridiculous that was a thing. In fact, there was some story of some guy frying his skin or something typing with the MacBook on his lap. How crazy is that? And yes, this MacBook is impossible to have literally anything open on. In fact, sometimes I like to edit downstairs when I'm editing these videos. I don't always want to edit in my room with my Mac Mini. So I use the MacBook Pro. The issue is I can't actually touch itself when editing. So I need to have a browser open, File Explorer, and Final Cut Pro. And on 8GB of RAM computer, and that 2019 generation of MacBook Pros, that's not going to handle well. So you have to have external keyboard and mouse and everything, otherwise if I touch it, it gets too hot, my hands will literally burn, it feels like. Now to my other complaint about this computer. When I bought this computer cost $1,500. You heard that right. That's $1,500, basically rounded up to $2,000 if you really want to. Computer that literally is just a space heater. This computer is almost $2,000 if you round it, and it's literally just used as a space heater. It is quite ridiculous how that computer costs so much and it's that bad. And the base price of this computer is actually $1,300, but back then, $1,300 to get you all the same specs, but you had to pay like a £200 increase. Dollars are doing dollars is the more, I feel like, widely known currency. So you had to pay $200 increase in order to get 256 gigabytes of storage. And who uses a computer about 256 gigabytes of storage? 128 gigabytes of storage is not enough, in my opinion, for any sane person. Unless, of course, all your work is in the cloud and everything, but most people don't have all their work in the cloud. Most people like to store stuff locally. So the specs on 1500 end up being a Core i5, I don't remember generation or anything, I can't bother to look, 8GB of RAM, 256GB of storage, and those are like the three main specs basically there. Those are the specs for $1,500, 8GB of RAM, 256GB of storage on i5. In context, I bought a System 76 laptop. I could have gone for like 32 gigs of RAM and AMD Ryzen 5, and I could have gone for 1TB SSD there compared to that. And I think it's like $100 cheaper, which is crazy to think that that computer is that bad, the pricing and everything. That's what they say, it's the Apple tax. Although nowadays you can actually get an alright deal on MacBooks. If you get an M1 MacBook Pro base model, that's 256GB of storage, 8GB of RAM, and the M1 chip is around 20 times better than this piece of crap over here. The M1 chip won't heat up when doing work. The M1 chip literally is never gone hot for me once. I've never run out of RAM on this computer, and I did it always on this computer. It's really bizarre how it works, but the M1 is just so much better than this Intel junk. Okay, but back to the main point. These computers are just terrible, and the M1 is actually pretty good value for money in my opinion. Well, if you do a computer, I'd probably just get a System 76 if you're into that Linux life, and if you're not into that Linux life, Windows is in my opinion, but I would go for a Dell XPS. Yet again though, I do not own a modern Dell XPS. I own a Dell XPS from 2013 with a Core i7, but it's actually pretty slow compared to my Surface Pro, which runs my Linux currently. Though I do want to get a System 76 for Linux in the future, so do hopefully look out for a video on the System 76 at some point in the future. If you pay $1,500 for a MacBook now, by the way, you can either get M1 with 512GB of storage or 256GB of storage and 16GB of RAM, which is just so much better than the crap deal you get on my MacBook Pro 2019. And to be honest, I'd much rather go for that more RAM there than the storage probably, as 256 is but you can always have hard drives and GitHub and stuff if you're doing code, and hard drives for all other files. And to be honest, it's primarily I want more RAM on that computer. I always find I always need more RAM, but it's storage, it's more of a tough subject. Like, yeah, you want it, but I don't really need all of it, but I do need it. It's a confusing subject, but storage isn't the biggest deal in the world in my opinion. It's more than RAM I want more of always, and 1,500 for an M1 MacBook Pro is so much better than this 2019 MacBook Pro, the Intel deal and everything. I don't know English right now, but it's a lot better than this computer with that deal. Now to the Apple Store experience. My MacBook has beaten Apple over 4 times now, and now almost the 5th time next week. Oh, and yes, I did want to say 9 times as an excuse just to use this clip, but I'm not going to lie at first, so I'm going to say 9 times now to use this clip.
9 times.
9 times.
9 times.
So, the first time, my computer was plugged into my whole desk setup and everything, and I go to turn it on around 10 PM, and you know what, turn it on, the force trackpad is working, so I don't even know if the trackpads don't actually click down in these new MacBooks. They're actually like the 3D touch technology in the old iPhones and stuff, so it's a haptic click, and I noticed it was haptically clicking, nothing else was working. Called up Apple support, anyways, that day, and had a whole long conversation. Anyways, turns out the MacBook logic board somehow fried itself by being plugged in. Bizarre. So anyways, Apple being closed and everything due to quarantine and COVID and all of that fun stuff, I had to send it to an authorized Apple repairer, and well, it took over a month to get fixed, and that was a really annoying pain, especially during the middle of COVID. I needed my computer for school and everything, so Oof, that was not fun, but it got sorted eventually. I'm sure you can guess what those 3 other times were when the computer went in. The classic MacBook Pro problem, the keyboard. First, it went in December, and then February, and now last week. So when it went in last week, I got it back this Friday, and it went in last Friday, so it took around a week. And so what happened was, I opened it up, all excited to see my computer again, turn it on and start using it. So I was going to set it up, because what normally happens, so I've set my MacBook in 2 other times for keyboard repair, 1 other time for fried logic board. So I'm pretty expert, knows what happens when you get your MacBook back from Apple. But what normally happens, or authorized Apple repair centers. So what happened though was the computer wasn't wiped, and normally the computer's wiped when you get it back, and that was bizarre. I was thinking at first, I was like, okay, that's a bit weird. Normally the computer's wiped, and I was just getting ready to just reinstall everything on the computer. I was just thinking, that's really bizarre. So I turn it on, and I noticed the first thing, as I'm typing my password, the space key and the J key, or H and Dvorak, if you didn't know, I do use Dvorak by the way, but the J key, they were still sticky, and they were still hard to press. And I also noticed the Enter key also felt a bit weird. So, turns out I signed my MacBook into Apple, and they didn't do shit. The computer was literally still broken, and I sent it in for a week, and I got a broken computer back. And even worse, now there are scratches on the Apple logo, which weren't there before. Thanks, Apple, you literally just took my computer for a week and did nothing, and just scratched it. That's what you did, you scratched it. You didn't do nothing, you scratched it. Thanks, Apple, appreciate it. So like any sane person would do after just getting their MacBook sent in and basically Apple doing nothing, I called up Apple support. Waited a bit. When the first lady was alright, but when she told me to update the computer and call back, I don't know updating the computer would fix it, but okay. Did that, called back, still having all the issues, heating, keyboard, all the fun issues which are common on that computer. Then I get this guy starts rambling on about loads of stuff. So the first thing he says is, sorry, we don't see your computer being repaired 4 times. We only see it being repaired once on system. Like, I was literally in the Apple Store the other day and I saw the lady had always 4 times on her iPad thing. What is this guy chatting? He goes on for this about 5 minutes till we find some proof proving him, and the guy shuts up saying, oh, I can see it now. Okay, that's a bit bizarre on your end. And then this guy literally starts accusing me of having a stolen MacBook, which I stole. When you spend $1,500 on a computer, you don't expect the company you bought it from to accuse you of stealing it until you find a receipt, which is really far down in emails from 2019, which is really hard to find. It's like, it's the worst customer support. But just imagine for a minute, you give the company your hard-earned money. Let's think about this. You're at a restaurant, you order a steak, for example, and they say, the steak will be £60, please, and you'll get chips. You're like, alright, cool. Here's £60, give me my steak. You get your steak. And then they come to you later saying, sir, I'm very sorry, even if we have your money and we can see you purchased it, we are still going to accuse you of stealing this steak, and we are now going to get you in trouble. Like, what? You can't do that. That's not how it works. I don't think this guy understood how the world works. If you give someone money, and the guy could probably see, the guy could see proof of purchase on his computer, I'm guessing. Why would he accuse us of stealing it? Well, me. Why would he accuse me of stealing it? It just doesn't make sense. But after that whole terrible conversation, this guy, who was a bit of a dickhead to be honest, Apple finally gave me an appointment for this Thursday. Look, all I really want is my money back, to be honest, to buy a System 76, or I wouldn't mind if you upgrade to an M1 Apple. I want an M1, you want to give me an M1? We can work out a deal, we do business. Look, it's been on 4 times now, and it's honestly ridiculous, and I just had this terrible experience, but Apple didn't even bother repairing it. That's just ridiculous how Apple think they can get away with this as a company. Like, it just doesn't make sense, okay? I'm sorry, that is ridiculous. And I know it's not, like anyone's fault there. It's the people who are supposed to repair it. It's their fault, and you can't do that. And I don't know, God knows how many other computers could have not been repaired. There could have been 500 other computers, people not getting them repaired because of these lazy people at Apple supposed to not be doing their job. But I mean, supposed to be doing their job, not supposed to be doing their job. Look, last time I was at Apple, the lady who was there also told me that her store manager said, if I go there again and I have the same sort of issue, I may be able to get a free upgrade to an M1, so, I wouldn't mind if I upgrade to an M1 MacBook Pro, could turn my Mac Mini into a Homebridge server then replace my M1 MacBook Pro and put that as a editing station over here, because I only really use my Mac Mini now for like creativity work, and Linux is basically for everything else. So that's basically it. That is why the 2019 MacBook Pro is the worst computer I ever bought, and why I would not recommend anyone buy a MacBook Pro from 2016 to 2019, as they were just god awful. And to be honest with you, this Apple experience I've always had is god awful. Little tip, if you're in the UK, never, and I can't stress how much, never call the UK Apple. Call the US Apple. I don't know what it is, but everyone in the US is so much nicer and happier than people in the UK Apple. People in the UK Apple are always really rude to you, in my opinion. People at US Apple are always so nice and kind to you, in my opinion. So that's a little tip. Always call US Apple support. If you enjoyed this video, and I'm sure you'll love my previous video, where I break down the Apple event. Yes, I know, I just spent a whole video ranting about Apple when I make a previous video talking about how much I love Apple. You know, what you expect from a YouTuber. Thank you for watching, and see you later.